Hello, good evening. Welcome to day 27 of The Woman Called You to Over January. And this January was saying 31 days to declutter and deconstruct the mind to gain clarity. And you agree with me if you've been with us since this journey started, that we've been doing our utmost to try to get to that point where we begin to understand what we're all about, who we are, and how we can make sense of everything that concerns us by first getting rid of all those things that have, just cluttered up our minds and not allowed us see clearly. If you remember that song, I forget who sang it now. I was quite young then. That song, I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. So that's just basically what we are intending to achieve via these 31 days. And quickly, as I would always do, just as a preamble, to just say what the woman called you is about. We're just simply a platform of women. I mean, I can't emphasize it enough, who are just set and committed to inspiring change through personal growth. And we've been on now for close to 2 years. It was something that was dropped in my consciousness when I was turning 49. By the special grace of God, that's almost going on 3 years now. Yes, because I turned 52 in a couple of weeks. Having said that, remember yesterday and I think the day before when we did the reason for being, understanding and identifying your reason for being. Yesterday we did confronting yourself, and I gave a list of very tough questions I ask that you kindly ask yourself, because sometimes we just need to ask ourselves those tough questions. Because I think before reason for being, I took are you ready to jump? And like I said, before you jump, you must honestly confront the woman in the mirror, ask her a couple of questions. Because see, when we're talking about mental clarity, we're talking about totally getting to that point where you are present. Remember, I said it. I said, look, we want to get rid of that. But when we pray and we say spirit of buying and selling, that's what we want to get rid of in our minds. We want, when here, you are here in spirit, soul, and body, not being here in body alone and your mind, because of all that has cluttered up, your mental space is in a different location from where you are. So today, I'll be taking us through what to look forward to. And by what to look forward, by the time you begin to get rid of the cobwebs. By the time you begin to see yourself much more clearly for who you are, the things you expect to begin to see in your life. No doubt, like I said, there's many of us that are coming from, a place where there's been so much emotional baggage, there's been so much hurt. Yes, we act as if everything is okay, but we, as in you, yourself, me, myself, and I, we know that things are not really the way they should be. And I'm not talking about material things, because you can be as wealthy as, King Solomon or Midas and still have issues that clog up your mental space. So I'm talking about where you think you've gotten it all together, and now you're beginning to realize that, look, your mental space is not as it ought to be. You know, you understand that there is clutter and you need to declutter. Like I said, decluttering is not easy. Sometimes there have been some lifelong habits, lifelong beliefs, especially if you're someone who's been self-deprecating and all of that. It might have been as a result of the hurt from the past or anything, but it's not easy to just give up on all of that. Like, remember in one of the episodes I said, see, let's liken it to what we see in the word, where we're told that when an evil spirit is cast out, when the demon is cast out from somebody who is a demonic, who is possessed, if the person doesn't fill that space with something, things that are edifying, things of the spirit, things of God, soon enough the demons go, they invite their friends and they come and they fill up, that space, and it's 7 times worse than the person was, ab initio. So the thing about this thing also is, when you declutter your mind, remember I said decluttering and deconstructing the mind, not to gain clarity. When you declutter, when you unlearn, you need to relearn, you need to fill that space with new things, because whether we like it or not, some of us, we hold on to, damaging patterns from the past because we're scared of whatever lies ahead. We're actually scared, of diving into the unknown. Okay, if I give up all this thing, yes, they may cause me pain, but I was comfortable in my pain. Some people, they are places of pain, the place where they lost it all. They're familiar with that place. So telling them to venture out, to a new place, somewhere new, in their mind, it can be scary. It's like moving from certainty to uncertainty. People will tell you the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. Between the devil and the deep blue sea. So, you really don't know what will happen. Okay, if my mind is now clear, it's just like somebody who has been an alcoholic for years, or a drug abuser, any kind of substance of abuse. For a very long time, this substance of abuse has become like a crutch, And you now tell them, oh, you need to be clean. We need to detox you. Either it's cold turkey or you go for instant detox or whatever. It's usually never successful. You know why? Because those things that need to be done, like therapy, to teach them how to replace your cravings with something else, how to displace, how to serve, all those techniques, the 12 steps techniques, if they are not taught, whether you lock up the person goes cold turkey, the person joneses and doesn't see that drug for like 5 days because you lock them up. Once they go out, because they don't have the coping mechanism, they don't have the coping techniques, they don't have the tools. Once the urge comes, 99.99% of the time, they fall off the wagon and they go back to their destructive ways. Same thing with decluttering the mind. If after you have decluttered the mind, you don't begin to apply the tools, such as some of the ones we've mentioned in the past 26 days, it's very likely that you might fall back, to destructive patterns. It's very likely that you might fall back to thoughts, that are not edifying. And then it's worse, because if you've had a taste of freedom a bit through either some of the things you've learned here, or you probably will read up, and then you don't apply them, you don't learn. It's like muscle now. It's called muscle memory. You see people that go to the gym to build up their muscle. If they don't continue and just leave it like that, after some time it gets flabby and it gets worse because by building you have created more space, so to speak. So by where it starts getting slack again because you've not been working those muscles, you become much more, saggy and flabbier than you were before. And that's the same thing with the mental space. We need to exercise it with the new techniques. You're decluttering, you're getting rid of old habits, old mental habits. You need to begin to develop new mental habits. So, like I said, what to look forward to if, you know, you're successful in developing new mental habits to gain mental clarity. There's so many things you have to look forward to, because you have chosen, say, my mental state is of priority to me. I want to start afresh. I don't want to go back to all those destructive thoughts, destructive patterns that held me back all these years. I want 2022 to be different. I've spent January, almost the whole of January, preparing myself for the remainder part of the year, you know. So I must realize that, see, to be the best version of myself, whereby my mental health, you know, I dare say is healthy. If there's any this thing like that, it's almost like tautology. Whereby my mental health is as it should be, then I should be ready to embrace new things. And that's why I talked to us about our passion statement the other day. I spoke to us about reason for being. I spoke to us of how to brain dump. I mean, if you go back to all the 26 previous episodes to this one, thankfully everyone is well titled. You will definitely find something, you know, you'll find something, excuse me, that suits whatever point of your life you are mentally. So today, quickly, I'll be telling us the kind of things you should expect to see, you know, if you choose to truly, truly, truly embrace mental clarity via relearning, structured mind, examining the techniques we've taught in this last 26 days. The first thing that would happen when you choose to embrace mental clarity, you will begin to truly discover who you are. I'm telling you, you will see yourself for who you are. You'll not only be liberated, you'll be free to do whatever would truly make you happy. Like I said, mental clarity, happiness, and things like that, they're not self indulgent. Remember, I said it when I was talking about self care, they're not self indulgent. You ensure someone's ox is not being God because you say you want to live the life, your best life. But most importantly, you will discover who you truly are. Remember, you've learned your passion statements, you know your reason for being, you know. Like I said that day, my reason for being cannot be the same reason for being for you because everyone has their unique core values. So when you now get to a point where you discover yourself, you see that those old things that used to hold you down, you used to, you know, like cobwebs in your head, in your mind, they will not hold you down any longer. You know, they won't hold you down any longer. When you begin, your belief set will change. You won't be somebody who wants to, always please people because you know what your it's called you know what it is. You know what your deal breakers are. So you begin to understand if it's somebody who's okay, I've been called to a higher calling, fine. It's at this point you will discover what you've been called to do. And I tell you, in gaining mental clarity, discovering who you truly are is one of the most important things the next thing that will happen to you if you choose to embrace mental clarity, you will learn to make yourself feel whole. And that's, you will learn to be present where your body is, your mind is there. And one thing we should know is that for you to say you're truly happy or you're satisfied with yourself from within, you can't do it if you don't understand who you are. And like I said, by the time you understand who you are, you know, you just begin to know. It will, remember what I said? I said one of the things I need to deal with in this 31 days is my relationship with food. So you can imagine that I get to a point where I now understand everything. It's not just about what I like to eat. It's also about what I like to do. What do I love to listen to? What do I, some people, they spend their lives. It happens a lot in marriages. You can see she can tell you everything about her husband, but she doesn't even know anything about herself. And like I said, one of, the objectives of the woman called you is to inspire change, but we can only do that through personal growth when we grow. And you experience personal growth when you begin to give yourself permission to live, to give yourself permission to be free, And when we talk about self-actualization, by the time you attain a level of self-actualization, you become whole. That thing of, oh, I need somebody to complete me, it will not be necessary because you are a whole being. I mean, even the word of God tells us we're fearfully and wonderfully made. So that idea that you can't, you of course, yes, no man is an island, but you are a whole on your own. Anybody that tells you you need somebody for you to become whole is lying. Because most times when everything about you becomes a subset of someone else's life, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, you hear parents, some mothers, they say, my children are my everything, they're my life. Not so. Somebody who has mental clarity will not say that. Because you would understand that I just brought them in. I have the responsibility of raising them. At a point, like a mother bird, you will send them out of the coop. You will push them out of the nest. They have to spread their wings and fly. And that is why so many times when children leave the house, when there's empty nest syndrome, most women are lost because they do not have a life of their own. Some of them, they begin to just retrogress. And for me, having children leave the house is like, for me, it's one of the most happiest times because you are able to embrace yourself in totality. And you can only do such things. You can sit, you can reflect, you can plan when you feel whole. When you feel whole, that feeling of liberty. So I'm telling a woman today, yes, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't love your family well enough. I'm not saying that, but if you cannot experience joy just by being by yourself, then your mental space is compromised. So you can see, if you work on your mental clarity, oh my goodness, you will love your company. I'm not telling you what I don't like. I love my company. Within my house, I have my space. I have friends that can confirm that. I have my space. Because when you become whole, you will not need outside validation. You will not. You will not need people to praise you. You will not need to receive accolades from men and material things for you to feel complete. Haven't you seen a woman walk into a space wearing simple boo-boo, no makeup on her face, braids or dreads or whatever, and everybody turns? It's not as if she's Miss World, the most beautiful, but there is something that emanates. A woman who is self-assured. Remember I said confidence, when you talk about mental clarity, it's not being cocky. It's not being proud. It's not being self-indulgent. It's embracing yourself in totality. And I'm urging you, it's not too late to discover who you truly are. It's not too late to become whole. I mean, even in your spiritual walk with God, I said when I was talking about spiritual self-care, you cannot in any way make light of the need for spiritual wholeness. So, for instance, you're a Christian. When you make yourself feel whole, you have a relationship with God. You know Him for yourself. Yesterday, we were talking about cesarean section and things like that on a panel a program on Facebook, and it was also on YouTube. You could see women who were speaking about their CS experiences with confidence. Women who didn't care whether you say when you have CS, you're not a woman. They understood the deal for them was all about bringing forth a child, the joy of having carried a pregnancy, and the gratitude that there was a procedure that, though invasive, ensured that they were alive as well as their children. After all, we're reminded yesterday that in the 15th century, when cesarean sections started, for the child to come out, it was like a life for a life. For the child to come out, the mother had to die. I saw women yesterday who felt whole about their experiences. And when you learn to make yourself feel whole, what you do is taking absolute responsibility for the good, bad, and ugly in your life. Trust me, this is not absolving anybody of their complicity in whatever you're going through. But you cannot be whole if you keep on giving your power to another person. Oh, it's not that my husband did this. It's not that my husband did that. I mean, I've been married now for 26 years this year by God's grace. And I had to learn. People look at me and say, you're looking much younger. Because I just look, it's me, this thing, like somebody was saying yesterday on the panel. She said, see, she will not let herself die. After once, she will come and look after her children. So mental clarity also is understanding that you yourself, you are purposeful on your own. Talking about feeling whole is not being a feminist. It's entering into the wholeness of who you are, discovering yourself. I tell you, if you choose today, I'm telling a woman, surprise yourself and get to know yourself. And when you are whole, you can stand up and walk out of any, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a gathering, whether it's a body, a company, anything, you can stand up and walk out. You know why? Because you have your core values. You feel whole enough to know the things you will accept and the things you will not accept. That is what mental clarity does to you. Mental clarity is not a communal asset. Mental clarity is on your own. The next thing you will do, don't worry, I'll soon be done. We'll continue tomorrow because there are a lot of grounds I need to touch on this matter. The next thing you would experience that you should look forward to when you gain mental clarity. And this one is true because I've got to experience this firsthand. You will always feel excited, and anew when it comes to life's experiences. You'll just be able to throw yourself into things. You'll be passionate about what would otherwise have scared you. Remember, I said you would have done your reason for being or your RFBs, you'd have done your passion statement. So when I'm saying these things, anybody who has been following the series will understand. We're not talking about being reckless, far from it. Nobody's signing up from being reckless. When I'm talking about throwing yourself into doing this, doing that, I'm saying it based on what, decisions you've reached concerning your passion statements, your reason for being, your confronting yourself. That's what we did yesterday. Those hard questions I asked you to ask yourself yesterday. So when you now are excited. You're excited about those things because you know that you see this thing fail or succeed. I I took it on myself. You'll not be like Adam that said, "Oh God, the woman you gave to me, the woman you gave to me." That's not what you're going to be saying. Oh. You say, "You see this one, hook, line, and sinker. I'm responsible." Yes, that's how you'll be able to boldly say, "I'm sorry." You know, to take responsibility for things you did. That you don't say, "Oh, maybe it's the devil that made me." No, no, no. You take responsibility. Like I always tell people, I'm not too distinct to eat humble pie. Over the years, I've done it on social media. If I, by mistake, I misrepresent something, I'll come I'll with my full chest. I'll say, I'm sorry, forgive me. I didn't know the full details, so I apologize. Take responsibility. Not because this person did this person did that. So when you are excited about every new thing, one thing you'll see, you're not going to be bored. Though. You'll not be stuck. When you find yourself doing what you're doing, sometimes it might get tough. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it might get tough because life will happen. But guess what? Because you signed off on it, nobody pushed you into doing it. Maybe there's a project that you pursue, a project that you do. The difference between somebody who did that thing based on a deep assessment of who she is, the way she would respond would be different from somebody who just followed everybody. And because everybody is selling Bone Street, I'll join to sell Bone Street. But somebody who decided from the get-go, after planning herself, checking everything, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, even if the thing knocks somehow, you will see she will rise again because she will go back to the drawing board. But you that just did follow, you don't know your RFBs, you don't know any of that. You will become, you know, so desperate and most likely fall into depression. And what becomes at risk? Your mental space. So see, everything we do is tied to the mind. So you see, you will feel excited because you already can second guess what is going to happen. You be I just urge you, if you're watching, you go back and watch all these things to understand better. And you'll be excited that because even if you're scared, because that thing will always happen. That's what puts us in check. You just remember what took you into this thing in the first place, and you will pick up your excitement again. The next thing that will definitely happen for you, and I think I'll just stop here for the night, and I'll continue tomorrow. There'll be a part two of what to look forward to, because I don't want to rush it. The next thing that will happen to you when you are saying clarity of mind is you will have no fear, and that's true. Yes, taking that leap, doing that thing might be scary, but because you already know what is most, it's just like a woman, even how the man behaves. So you say, okay, anyhow, I'm going in there. Not that I'm going in to change him. I've seen it where I can live with it. You will see the signs and not know the signs for what they are. Or you might see the signs and pretend and say, I'll go in there and change him. But you see, if you're somebody who've weighed the pros and cons, that's why I say, oh, her heart. Oh, you see, the person, she's depressed. She's this, she's that. I'm not saying each and every one of us has the capacity of making the right decisions. And I'm just using spousal relationship as an example because it's one example that is readily available. That's why I see some women in their marriages. Not where you go talk, they'll say, I know So some people are just comfortable. Sorry, I had a small break in transmission. I don't know if my audio is working. So some people are just comfortable. They're just comfortable being there. You understand? They just build altars at their comfort zone. Meanwhile, deep down, they are dying. Their mind is cluttered. They feel as if they can't breathe. But you will still just be there to fulfill all righteousness. That's one of the most dangerous things you can do to yourself as a woman. Rebecca, can you still hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, I don't know if she's still on because I think I don't have watching. You understand? So you will not have any fear. You just like, what is it? What is it? Because you see, over and over time, you will develop such mental strength that, look, when you see some people, they will call it bravado. But you see, whatever name you give to it, whatever name you give to that, I know, I even forgot to add, you know how the Bible says, those that know their God shall be strong and do exploits. You know, spiritual strength actually is also part of it, because when we're talking about, levels of self-care, when we talked about spiritual self-care, that also acts, it gives you leverage as well, you know. But the fact remains, my sister, you must get to that point. Look, I'm not going to stay here and tell you I'm totally dead. That would be a lie, you know. But see, it doesn't matter what happens with fear. When you have begun to develop mental clarity, I don't know if somebody has ever heard of the saying, they say, do it afraid. Trust me, you willingly do it afraid. The fear go there where you do it afraid. You know why? You have the prerequisite skills, you have the capacity. It doesn't mean there won't be fear. You have faith. It doesn't mean there won't be fear, but the the exercise of faith is in pushing through. So with mental clarity, is remember, with mental clarity, I won't tell you there will be the absence of fear. No, there will be fear, but you will have no fear. You know why? Because you have been able to prove to yourself that with whatever strategies you have learned that have built your character, that have built your strength, your mental strength base, that has done everything, will make you look into yourself to pull out what you need. That's why you will see Nike says, just do it. You can't do it if you don't believe in yourself. You can't believe in yourself if you have not crossed your T's and dot your I's. Can you see a surgeon just go and just say, because I'm walking to the theater? No. I'm sure he would have gone through medical school. There's some things he would have done and all of that. Definitely, he would have had to overcome the fear of blood at some time, at some point. So you see, with a belief in yourself and belief in your capabilities, I want to just assure you that it is possible for you to achieve anything you put your mind to. Over the course of this series, I've had to pull up that Moabudu saying, if you can think it, you can do it. Yes, if you can think it, you can do it. But between that thinking and doing, there is a space in between. And whatever you do in between determines whether or not you have mental clarity, whether or not you have mental strength. And between that, if you can think it and if you can do it, that journey, there are things that will come up that will threaten to scare you and drive you out of that path. There are people that will come up. Like, remember the other day I was talking about when Nehemiah was building the wall, Sambalat and Tobias, who were his mockers, consistently mocking him. Remember, Nehemiah was the journey of, he thought it and he had to do it. Between when he thought of it and he did it, there were so many parameters. And Tobias and Sambalat, like I said, were always mocking him. But guess what? I remember a long time ago, I heard this gentleman, Reverend Afolabi, Reverend Simon Afolabi, he was teaching on the wall and all that. And he said, Nehemiah took the mortar from the mockery of Sanballat and Tobias, and he used it to put with the blocks to build defense, or to build the wall rather. So me then, from that day, I was just committed to saying, see, I will take the mockery of my mockers and I will use it as the mortar that will build my wall. And that is why where we talk about you will have no fear. You will have no fear. Because if you have to just draw from your world of spiritual self-care, you will have no fear, because he that is in you is greater than he that is in the world. And you will have no fear, because the word of God says he has not given to us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. On that note today, I'll say good night. We'll continue tomorrow with part 2 of Attaining Clarity, what to look forward to. God bless you. And remember, there is day 1 to 26 that you can catch up on. You will most certainly see something. So you will see something that would catch your attention. And I hope it blesses you. God bless you. Good night from me.